Today we're going to be talking auditing, inspections, and public safety on a college campus. My guest today is Jeremy Dick. He's the Environmental Health and Safety Specialist at Bowling Green State University. How are you today?
Hey, Brandon. Thanks for having me on. Doing great.
I'm really glad to be talking to you today. We originally connected on LinkedIn, and you have actually won one of my Friday trivia questions. And then I was like, hey, would you like a DoorDash or Starbucks gift card? And you actually wanted to do something for the environment. And we kind of settled on you planting a tree in your name. So that is super awesome. So can you give me a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, so as Brandon already stated, I'm Jeremy Dick, Environmental Health and Safety Specialist for Bowling Green State University. And I have about almost 6 years experience in the environmental health and safety field. But I also have like a lifetime of passion and interest in ecology and the environment. But I've been at BGSU, Bowling Green State University, for about 4.5 years now. Previously, I was in a role where I managed the fire and life safety programs. But currently, I'm the chemical hygiene officer, radiation safety, and laser safety officer here.
Laser safety, interesting. So just so everybody's on the same page, to our viewers. So Bowling Green State is where?
It is about 30 minutes south of Toledo.
Okay.
So northwest Ohio. Yeah.
So it just seems like just a enormous job, and I'm really interested how you and your team begin to tackle EHS for an entire college. So how large is your team, and what are you guys doing on a daily basis?
So at BGSU, we currently have 3 members of our department. My supervisor is the risk manager. So she handles most of the risk-oriented tasks, the insurance, that sort of thing. And I have another colleague who manages occupational health and safety programs, industrial hygiene. I manage the chemical laboratory safety, as well as environmental programs here. Each of us kind of lead and somewhat manage our programs, but we usually team up each other due to the complexity and the various circumstances we have throughout campus that we support as well. So in addition to our main campus, we actually support our Firelands campus. We have the Northwest Ohio Book Depository, and we have many other properties owned by the university that we have for various university functions, whether it's housing, whether it's athletics, whether it's our radio station who has towers everywhere. So due to this, we heavily rely on building relationships with the departments and to objectively build our procedures and protocols to meet what they're doing, to be efficient and understanding to them, since they're the ones that are mostly directly impacted by that. And we need to be more of a support team rather than just a bunch of people handing out to-do lists. So that's kind of our main way of tackling it.
Fair enough. So I cannot go any further without asking you this, because school's about to start here soon. We know 2020 has presented so many challenges with COVID. So are you guys expecting students to be on campus this year?
Yes, we actually have some students starting to roll up now. Most of them are RAs. We are having a little bit of troubles with international students, last I knew, but we are planning on having students here.
At least starting the year, you're going to have students. So how has COVID kind of affected your job duties? And do you expect these changes to actually stick with you, through this year and for years to come?
Yeah, so COVID has impacted all colleges and universities. There hasn't been a single one that has not. BG is definitely not an exception to that. So throughout the summer, we've had many different teams come together to provide those students to come back to campus, like I already said. And researchers and we have other essential personnel have been here actually through the entire pandemic, doing some research. We've had some research actually tried to do some research that actually looked at COVID in particular to our regional areas. So going into the fall, we have a little mixture of styles that we're going to be offering coursework, whether that's in person, online, or a mixture of the two. So we're trying to really reduce the spread of COVID and and those risks by giving flexible options to students as well.
Is this something that you think, even moving forward, so the students will have the option to do more online classes? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely foresee these changes sticking around for a while. We've had some layoffs. We've had some downsizing here. So giving the students the option to do some online work and giving the employees kind of the flexibility to be able to create that platform and to move that forward, I think is going to be what happens here going out, at least until the end of the year.
So that's kind of what I see as well. It's going to be kind of difficult because, all it takes is one little outbreak cluster, and then who knows, what you have to do next. Do you go fully remote and things like that? But those are questions, to be answered at a later time. So to kind of jump into auditing and inspections, I know this is part of your job. So are you doing safety audits for every building on campus? I know you said you had a radio station. How does that work?
Environmental health and safety performs many different types of audits or inspections. And I personally lead or co-lead facility, laboratory, or workshop or maintenance area type inspections throughout all of our facilities. So that would be main campus, Firelands campus, all facilities. I'm also, on top of that, I'm a member of a few research committees, so we can help occasionally involve occasional audits or inspections due to those federal regulations. Our goal is to help instill those EHS values, initiatives, and procedures in with research as well, so that they can kind of have another outlet to learn what we do, and then we can help provide resources to do that. Depending on the inspection, it's definitely hazard specific. I will do a lab inspection, and the set of questions or items that we look at are going to be different than a workshop inspection or a radiation inspection where we're specifically looking at radiation hazards, and those are also governed by our permits that we have. We also have fire safety inspections that kind of look at offices and our lab spaces. They cover broadly all of campus. More specifically, we're looking at OSHA regulations, ANSI, NFPA, EPA. We also have insurance regulations. So our insurer is telling us what they want us to do. And then BGSU has their own guidelines as well that may be beyond what the regulations tell us that need to be done. So it's very, very complex. We have a large area to look at. So it's quite a task.
So you mentioned something that I just now thought about, and that's insurance. So when insurance tell you what they expect or what they're looking for, is this something that's beyond the regulations? I'm assuming so.
Yes. So most often than not, it's beyond.
Okay.
So for example, I know fire systems is a huge thing that insurers look at. So you may do the bare minimum, but since they're giving you money and they're covering that, they might want you to do the top grade technology on the newest system for your residence halls where you have the most people in at the most times. So, and there's been many times we've had to abide by that. Spend some money and spend some resources improving our systems. And that's not just for us. I mean, that's for most businesses, most in education or outside of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I spend so much of my time thinking about like the environmental and like most EHS professionals, it sounds like you're wearing a bunch of hats. I totally get that. Once you get into something, it seems to turn into something else as well. I never thought about, your insurance company saying, hey, I know the regulation is this, but actually we need you to go beyond and beyond because again, we're giving you cash, we're insuring you. That makes sense. How often are you conducting your inspections? How often are you doing your audits? How does this work?
So inspections are done at least once a year. We do have some inspections like radiation inspections. They're done on a more frequent basis. We do those once a quarter. So given the amount of spaces that need inspected and then also the time required to have hands-on time with the personnel in those spaces to find solutions to not only give them a to-do list, but help them find ways to improve those deficiencies and fix those issues. it's truly an all year round project.
I know what must take up some of your job. I know you said you're working with other departments. Do you spend a lot of time doing trainings? Like, are you in charge of that as well?
Yeah, so our inspections go hand in hand with what we train. More specifically, I just finished up filming lab safety trainings that we're going to be improving our online database for that, since we're not going to have a lot of face-to-face time this fall. And we go through the inspection process. We go through what the expectations are for both the supervisors and for the students and researchers in those spaces. We give them the resources they need, and then we come through at least once a year, go through and actually meet with them so we can teach them along the way.
That makes total sense. One of the things we've been seeing from our customers, it's funny you brought that up, because we've been seeing a lot more customers use our platform actually to host their training. So they train a video, put it on the Encamp platform, then someone can just log in and actually go view that. So are you guys using any kind of software? Encamp is a software company. It's kind of what we do. But are you guys tracking this in any way?
First, let's start with a little background. When I was in my previous role in the fire safety and life safety role, lab inspections, fire inspections, everything was done pen and paper, old school. You go out in the field with a notebook, you come back, and then you spend time typing that into a Word or Excel document.
Oh, yeah.
Not only were the inspections very lengthy and very cumbersome to digest, in general, deficiency rates were very high. No one was correcting anything at all. I knew that something had to change. So shortly after, I began investigating methods to increase our productivity and efficiency. And some of our sister schools during that time were also trying to investigate auditing software or something where they could actually take a tablet out in the field, perform their audits, and have instant results on what went right, what went wrong, and then being able to communicate that to the end user. So during that time, we already had a training tracking system with a developer, and they were able to actually somewhat quickly develop the auditing tool for us.
So you got some custom tools. Not many people can say that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And really, when it comes down to it, no matter what system you use, there's going to be pros and there's going to be cons to it. And all I can say on this platform is that the biggest benefit of having something like this is being able to set tangible and quantifiable goals. Because when you look at environmental health and safety, it's very hard to put a number to something. And that's what people want to see. So I'm actually able to use the data to set goals for myself and to compare that year to year end and work with departments. So much easier than pen and paper. So no matter what system you decide to go with, I highly recommend using electronic auditing for your processes. It's a time saver. It's wonderful.
We've been hearing that from our customer base as well. It's something we might want to actually expand into. I'm very, very happy you say that, because we think, like you said, pen and paper is just not the way to go anymore. Like, how do you track changes? How does this work? How do you meet your goals? Unless someone's really going down through those notes and kind of making their own notes, and that just doesn't make much sense.
Within our first year of implementation, I was able to increase correction rates by 30%.
Oh, nice.
So that means within most of those were within a few days of the inspection, we were able to get results and get things actually completed, because people were able to communicate with me and they understood what the expectations were. Whereas before, there might have been a little confusion since they were lengthy reports.
What is the most difficult aspect about like auditing and these inspections for an entire campus? Is it just time?
Yes, yes and no. Actually, the auditing process itself is quite enjoyable. I actually learn a lot. I think the people that we work with and inspect, they also learn some too. But the most difficult part is the follow-up. And time is part of that. It's also resources. Sometimes you find items that cost money or they involve many different people. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of coordinating, sometimes a lot of money to make some changes to that. And especially when you have things like COVID tossed into the ring, then that really delays the your productivity and sets you back a little bit. So it's not a one size fits all solution for any of these things. They can be pretty lengthy. Sometimes you just have to sit back and interpret the regulations, which I know I kind of alluded that to you before on your post there. Sometimes you can just interpret the regulations a little differently, and that sets you back too.
If you come to a project where, let's say that, like you said, you have to put some money in, but you guys actually don't have the budget for it, what is your plan then? What do you do?
So the first thing to do is find, for me, I use a method kind of, it's many people they have their own ways of doing things, but I abide by the human and organization performance method. And it's kind of a way where you get people involved, almost like a committee, like a safety committee type deal. You get people involved that are directly impacted by the task, and you brainstorm ways to eliminate risk or to reduce risk. So, for example, this may not be exactly relevant to a university, but if we're talking about a manufacturing plant and somebody says you need to guard these machines and that's going to cost $115,000 to hire that out, you might have somebody at your disposal, a machinist or something, that could make that for little to nothing. So you have to be creative. You have to find ways to meet the requirements. Now, obviously, meeting the requirements is only a C, and you always want to get a B or an A.
Right.
You have to be creative and collaborate with people, and you can't be the only person making decisions. You need insight from people who know what they're doing or actually work in that area all the time, all day long. So you need their input as well.
Probably one of the most common things when I talk to people, it's like you need buy-in from the top, and then you also need the people that it affects every day to be bought in as well, or it's just never going to work. So lastly, what advice would you give an EHS manager that's in charge of audit and inspection, like a campus or a large company? What is the best advice you could give them?
EHS personnel of all titles, responsibilities, backgrounds, they need to utilize their people as much as they can. So they need to network with directors, faculty, students, maintenance workers, to have a little bit of an introduction to their work, understand their needs, and then truly understand the process before they get involved with any decisions or anything of that nature. So when you're performing audits, you need to get those people involved. You need to let them know what you're doing, what you're looking at, and be honest and communicate with them to correct them so that they know in the future what they do differently. And you may learn a thing or two as well in that. So like I said before, I've led a few human organization performance teams. I get people involved, whether it's faculty, we've had some grad students, and I listen to them. And it's amazing how I can walk into a meeting and not have any idea what's going to come out of it. And getting just a few people involved who aren't EHS professionals, we're able to come up with some pretty unique and usually minimal cost solutions to some of the problems that we're having. And so I truly believe if you understand the process, network with your employees, and heck, even if that's a cup of coffee at lunch or something, you're gonna create those relationships, network, and it's really going to be a positive influence on your culture.
I absolutely understand that. Getting people involved and getting your, just getting to know the people that you're trying to work with is very important, especially like you said earlier, just for buying as well. So really appreciate your time and thanks for the great advice. These will be housed on Encamp.com. So if you like this, please give this a like as well. And Jeremy, how can someone reach out to you if they want to ask you a question?
Yeah, most definitely. Feel free to go to bgsu.edu, look at environmental health and safety, and you'll see my whole department there. You might even, if you go to About Us or meet the staff, you might even see what we specialize in. You can reach out to any of us if you have any questions, and we'll gladly help out.
Awesome. Yeah, if the viewers ever want to reach out to me, you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can also go to Encamp.com. So again, thanks for joining us today. And what's good for business is good for the environment.